Hello, everyone. It's me. Number 10. Growing walls. There have been many cases of people who woke up in their homes to find that the walls were growing. In one case in particular, a man named Paul from New York woke up in his home to find that the wall was bulging outwards at around 2 centimeters an hour. He immediately called an engineer to come and take a look. The quake happened in the city of El Alto in Bolivia. It hit with a 6.1 magnitude. But the scariest part of the whole thing was that after the earthquake hit, the walls didn't stop moving. She ran to her window to see what was happening outside, but everything seemed fine. It was then she realized that the only thing that was moving was the walls. They were literally curling in on themselves. At first, they thought it was a prank. Someone was probably trying to mess with them by opening and closing their window using a remote control. But that wasn't what was happening. The residents soon realized that every single window in the building was moving. Some opened and others closed. It wasn't just a one-time thing either. The walls screamed for days. Here's what happened. The nursing home was built in the 1970s. It was designed with a heating and cooling system that was attached to the exterior walls. The system used refrigerant to heat and cool the air before circulating it through the vents in each room. One day, the pipes started leaking a chemical called freon. The eerie melody can only be heard at night, and it drives anyone crazy who tries to sleep there. The house has been empty for decades now because no one can stand the singing walls. The song isn't very loud, and it doesn't sound like anything demonic or hellish. It's more like a sad lullaby. Nobody knows what the song means or where it comes from, but paranormal investigators say it's definitely coming from within the walls. The locals claim the song is cursed and that whoever hears it will die soon. The only people who ever visited were the real estate agent and potential buyers. But those people never stayed long because the house made terrifying noises. It sounded like someone was walking around on the second floor, even though there was nobody there. Then there were regular sounds of footsteps in the basement, followed by heavy chains dragging metal moans. The house was perfectly safe, but it was enough to freak out most people. The truth was that the house wasn't haunted by a ghost. It was simply the pipes. The house had been built in the early 1900s, and the pipes were so old that they had started to rust. The sound of the dripping water resonated through the empty rooms and made it sound like someone was moving around inside the walls. Others say the song is the spirit of a mother mourning the loss of her child. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe. See you next time. This is the same stuff that was responsible for the hole in the ozone layer back in the 80s. But the reason it was scary is that it made the walls of the building incredibly cold. The staircase screeched. Not just a little bit either. It was a blood-curdling screech that echoed throughout the entire house every single night. They tried everything to get rid of it, including getting rid of the carpet on the stairs and treating the wood with a special solution. He said the walls of his apartment were constantly making noise. It sounded like someone was grating cheese on the other side of the wall. At first he assumed it was his upstairs neighbor. Maybe they had a cheese grater that was cheaply made, and the sound was seeping through the walls, but that wasn't the case. One day, he knocked on his upstairs neighbor's door to ask him to turn the noise down. The guy opened the door and looked at him like he was crazy. Apparently, the noise had been driving him insane as well. It turned out the sound was coming from within the walls. A pipe had become loose and was vibrating against the wall whenever water ran through it. But nothing worked. It still screeched. Eventually, they called in a priest to perform an exorcism. According to Scottish folklore, staircases are portals to other dimensions. There may be a demon living inside the walls of this house, and it was using the stairs as its gateway to our world. As soon as the priest left, the scratching stopped. The couple never called him back. The temperature difference between the inside and the outside created such a massive vibration that it sounded like the walls were screaming. It was as though an invisible hand was going from window to window, switching them on and off. There were even cases of doors opening and closing all by themselves. They were even more surprised when they went outside to investigate and saw a ghostly train crawling through the darkness. The locomotive was dragging several cars along the tracks, and it looked like it had just emerged from another dimension. Many believed it was a ghost train. The last train that traveled down these tracks was over 50 years ago. So why did it suddenly come back to life? It turned out that a group of teenagers had somehow managed to steal a diesel engine and were messing around in the middle of the night. They hoped to scare some people and they definitely succeeded. Residents fled their homes in terror, calling emergency services. By the time help arrived, everything was back to normal. No one knew what caused the phenomenon. This was impossible, so she got on the phone with her local news station. When the reporter arrived, they could tell that the building was in serious danger of collapsing. After hours of investigating, they finally found the cause of the problem. Someone had eaten a magic mushroom, and then decided to dig a hole underneath the foundations of the house. The hole caused the foundation to become unstable, leading to the walls scrunching inwards. We don't know what happened to the mushroom eater. They continued to pulse back and forth like the heartbeat of some kind of monster. People were too afraid to go inside their houses after the earthquake, and rightfully so. The walls looked like they were about to collapse. In total, there were 7 people who died in this earthquake, which begs the question, how could a relatively small earthquake cause so much damage? They were shocked to see the way that the walls were growing. There was no logical explanation for what could be happening, and the only thing they could think of is that the ground must have shifted. But even that didn't make any sense, because if the ground shifted, then the entire house would have moved, not just the walls. Paul says he felt like something out of a Stephen King novel. Even more disturbing, the wall kept growing until it was over a foot thick, then it stopped. No, 9 earthquake walls. In July of 2014, someone posted this video on YouTube. It shows a very strange phenomenon where walls are moving in an earthquake. Number 8. Scrunching walls. A woman in China woke up in her home to find that the walls were scrunching inwards. 7. Moving window. Residents of an apartment complex in Israel were sitting in their living rooms, when all of a sudden their windows began to move on their own. Number 6. The screaming walls. Residents of a nursing home in Wisconsin were terrified when they heard their walls start screaming. It sounded like the walls were crying out in pain. No. 5. Ghost train. In January of 2014, residents of a village in England were shocked when they heard a train whistle in the middle of the night. Number 4. Haunted house. A haunted house in England has walls that sing. No. 3. The shrieking staircase. A young couple bought an old home in Edinburgh, Scotland. It looked like a great deal, but the home had one horrifying secret. No. 2. The grating wall. One Reddit user shared a bizarre experience he had while living in an apartment in New York. No. 1. Creaking pipes. The house stood empty in Ohio for nearly a decade. Thanks for watching. What do you think is the scariest thing that could happen in your house? Let me know in the comments below.